Hey, welcome to this three-part series called Posers, Fakers, and Makers. And we're going to take a look just briefly for a few minutes each day at 3 o'clock at these three terms. Now, today we're looking at posers. Now, I've heard that word posers before. It generally means someone fake, disingenuine, not real, not authentic. Here's at least the Google definition. You ready? I Googled it this morning. It says a person who acts in an affected manner in order to impress others. That someone would act a certain way in order to impress others. Now, I want us to look at that in two parts, on how we live our life and how we live to impress God, but also how we may impress others. And so my prayer is that we will expose the posers, that tomorrow we'll expose the fakers, and the last day we'll expose the makers, who God has created us to be in that order. But posers, right? Think about it. If I said, tell me someone who is fake, you could all probably throw out names right now. Like I have them in my own head, people who I think are fake. Some people do a better job pretending than others, but we're all good at that. I can tell you when I was in school, as far as my academics go, I could sit there and listen to a teacher and act and engage like I knew everything, but then when it was time to get the homework at home and start figuring it out, I really struggled. And I'd go to the teacher, and the teacher's like, I thought you knew it. And I'm like, yeah, I had no clue what you were talking about. I just nodded like this and went, uh-huh. Now, we have the same people that come within our own church, even with our own youth group possibly, who says, hey, I'm a believer, I'm a follower of Christ, look at me, but yet they'll walk outside and go to school or go be with their other friends, and they're not the same person whatsoever. This question is, are they a poser? Jesus had some people that he ran into several times, and we're going to look at those today. There's two sections we're going to look at. First is Matthew chapter 23, verse 27 and 28. Now, Matthew chapter 23, Jesus goes through what these woe statements. Like, woe are you? And so one that has always stuck out to me is this one. I think it's still quite relevant, and it kind of just punches you in the gut. And here it is. He says, woe to you, scribes and Pharisees. Now let's explain real quick who the scribes and Pharisees are. I guess I should do that first. The scribes and Pharisees at that time are religious people who believe they're doing exactly what they're called to do in the correct manner, and that they are slightly above everyone else because, well, they're the religious people, right? Like they've got it all figured out. God must be very impressed with these people. That's what they thought. And so Jesus comes along, he questions them, and it's them who get the most angry, the maddest at what Jesus is saying, because he's exposing who they really are. So let's go back again. Matthew 23, 27, 28 says, woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites. Now, we all heard the term hypocrites, right? The faker, the one who does one thing here but another thing there, the one who can lead a devotion here but then uses every bad word in the book at school, and that has nothing to do with what Christ has called us to do. Hypocrites, right? He says, for you are like whitewashed tombs, which outwardly appear beautiful, but within are full of dead people's bones and uncleanliness. Let's just stop with that phrase, because to me, you've probably been to a graveyard, maybe a funeral, and you went to the graveyard part where the person is buried. And I like to, I don't go to the graveyard often, right? But when I'm there, sometimes I like to walk around and look at the names of people. I like to see, maybe you find the oldest grave, and it's kind of cool to see some of these from the early, 1906, 1920, different things like that. And you're like, I just start thinking, what was this person like, right? So you see all these tombs, and then you come to some who are these super pristine, nice, high dollar, super fancy rocks that have names on them, and it's their tombstone. And as much money as people spend, and as exciting and as impressive as they look, it's still a dead person underneath it, right? It's still decaying bones, uncleanliness, right? It's dirty, it's nasty. And Jesus is comparing these people and says, you better watch out, because you're a fake person and you're nothing but a clean, whitewashed beautiful outside tomb, but yet your insides are dying and decaying. And he says, so you also outwardly appear righteous before others, but within you are full of hypocrisy and lawlessness. And God calls it out right there. You look good on the outside. You hang out with the right people in church, but when you get away from that, you're somebody else. Or maybe you're the one, like these other people, these scribes, who would say, you act like you have it all together. You act like you know what you're doing. It's nothing but a show. And God wants to expose it for who you really are. Same thing happens again in a different encounter. Jesus is with his disciples, the 12 men that he mentored and invested in and followed him. And they come, and now I'm guessing these disciples are sometimes some dirty guys, dirty, nasty hands, which is kind of funny. Right now in our culture, it's good to have clean hands. I'm just going to be honest, I wash my hands before I eat, but it doesn't really bother me if I haven't. I know it grosses some of you out, but I try to keep clean hands, but now I feel like I'm all of a sudden doing this like all the time with hand sanitizer, right? Keeping this corona mess away. But here's the disciples. There's a certain ritual when it would come to eating that the Jewish people would have customs to, and the religious scribes and Pharisees would say, you must wash your hands a certain way, do this a certain way before you can touch the food. Well, man, the disciples, I feel like, were me, like, food, let's grab it and start chowing down. Didn't even think about, like, maybe cleaning their hands. And these scribes and Pharisees come to Jesus and they question him and say, what's wrong with your disciples? Why are they not doing the religious thing? Why are they not doing it the right way? And this is what Jesus says. He quotes, actually, Isaiah 29:13. But Jesus, he said to them, this is Mark chapter 7, verse 6. It says, and he said to them, well, did Isaiah prophesy to you of hypocrites? As it is written, these people honors me with their lips, but their heart is far from me. He called them out again. Posers. Get it? A poser definition again. A person who acts in an effective manner in order to impress others. Jesus says these religious people would honor him with their lips. They would sing praises to who God is and do all these right things, but their hearts were far from God. I'll leave you with this and I'm done. Are you a poser? Do you do things and worship God with your lips, but your heart is so far from it? Do you come amongst the crowd of believers and showboat and do everything, maybe even lead and teach people or lead by example, but yet when you walk out of our meetings or gatherings or amongst your other friends, the world, you're far from what God would call you? If that's you, you're a poser. And my prayer is that you would seek after the living God, ask for forgiveness, and start following him today. We can all grow together with one another if we would put away our selfish desires, that we would put away this, that we have to act a certain way, and just desperately go after Jesus. So that's it for today. I love you guys. I can't wait to see you soon. Stick around for tomorrow, 3 o'clock. We'll have another. We'll actually be talking about the fakers. They're a lot like the posers, a little different, at least in my mind. So we're going to talk about fakers, and then on Thursday, we'll hit the makers. I like the makers. Hopefully you'll be a maker. You'll find out more about it. Love you. Peace out.